Hey everyone, want to know the absolute best way to guarantee a massive, healthy pear harvest for next year? Well, the secret doesn't actually start in the spring, it starts right now, in the autumn. Today, we're bringing you an explainer that serves as the ultimate guide to autumn pear tree pruning. Look, this isn't just about making your tree look pretty for the neighbors. This is a vital, life-saving health intervention. Getting this right is going to set your trees up for some truly spectacular growth and abundant fruit production.
Picture this. You've got two pear trees side by side. One is this overgrown, tangled mess, completely struggling with dead branches, disease, and maybe producing a few sad, spotty pears. The other? It's open, vibrant, and just loaded with perfect fruit. So why do some trees thrive while others totally fail? Honestly, the difference almost always comes down to one thing: effective sanitary care. For an overgrown, disease-ridden tree, proper autumn pruning is literally the ultimate cure. It wipes the slate clean and protects the tree right when it's most vulnerable.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. I know pruning can feel a bit intimidating, but we're going to break this down into a super easy-to-follow manual. We'll cover understanding autumn pruning, the essential tools, critical timing, foolproof cutting techniques, mistakes you definitely want to avoid, and finally, some expert tips to wrap things up.
All right, Part 1, Understanding Autumn Pruning.
First things first, we really need to shift our mindset here. When we prune in the autumn, we are essentially performing a sanitary procedure to prep the tree for its deep winter sleep. There's a massive difference between autumn and winter pruning. Deep winter, that's when you do your heavy, structural shaping. But autumn pruning is strictly sanitary. It's all about cleaning up. Your goal is to get rid of any broken branches, dead wood, and especially those creepy, shriveled, mummified fruits still hanging onto the branches. Those little mummies harbor a nasty fungal disease called brown rot. If you leave them on the tree, that fungi will happily hibernate there all winter and absolutely wreck your new blossoms in the spring.
Moving right along to Part 2, Tools and Prep.
You wouldn't do surgery with a butter knife, right? Well, same goes for your tree. Having the right surgical equipment isn't just about making the job easier for you, it's really about minimizing trauma to the plant. You basically just need 3 main cutting tools, plus a good pair of heavy-duty gloves to save your hands. First, grab some sharp bypass secateurs for the small stuff, anything up to about 2.5 centimeters. Second, you'll want a pair of long-handled loppers for reaching those medium branches higher up. And finally, a really high-quality pruning saw is an absolute must for any branches thicker than 2.5 centimeters. Keep in mind, quality and sharpness are totally non-negotiable here if you want a clean, healthy cut.
But listen, having sharp tools is great, but sterilizing them? That's an absolute necessity. It's exactly like a surgeon washing their hands before an operation. It stops the spread of disease from branch to branch and tree to tree. You have to disinfect your blades before you start, and honestly, as you move between trees too. Just wipe them down with 70% isopropyl alcohol, or even dip them in a weak copper sulfate solution. I promise you, this one simple step can literally save your entire orchard from a bacterial wipeout.
Okay, Part 3, Timing and Weather Conditions.
So you can't just wander out on any random autumn afternoon and start hacking away. Picking the right day is quite literally a matter of life and death for the pear tree. The absolute boundary here is -5 degrees Celsius. You must never, ever prune your trees if temperatures drop below that point. When the wood gets that cold, it freezes completely solid. If you try to cut it, the wood won't slice cleanly. It shatters and cracks. And those tiny, microscopic fractures, they can't heal properly, leaving a permanent open door for rot and disease to set in.
And here's another golden rule. Always prune on a completely dry day. 0 rain, 0 mist, no fog. Any moisture hanging in the air is a massive risk. Think about it. Every cut you make is a fresh, open wound on that tree. If it's damp out, fungal pathogens and bacteria floating around can instantly land in those open wounds. You want a crisp, dry day so the cuts can quickly dry out and start to seal themselves up.
All right, on to Part 4, the actual pruning techniques.
This is the actual cutting phase, and it's surprisingly easy once you know the rules of the game. Let's talk about small branches first. The proper move is to make a 45-degree angle cut, exactly 2 to 3 millimeters above an outward-facing bud. Why so specific? Well, that 45-degree angle ensures that autumn rainwater just runs right off the cut and away from the bud, totally preventing rot. And making that cut just above an outward-facing bud, that directs the tree's future spring growth outward, which keeps the center of the canopy wide open to sunlight and air. If you make a flat cut or cut too close, you'll just dry out and kill that bud entirely. Now for larger limbs, say branches over 3 centimeters thick, we use the famous 3-cut method. If you just grab a saw and cut straight down from the top of a heavy branch, the weight is going to snap it halfway through. And when it snaps, it'll tear a huge, damaging strip of bark right down the main trunk. To prevent that nightmare, step 1 is an undercut. Saw about 1/3 of the way through the bottom of the branch. Step 2 is an overcut, a little further out from the trunk to safely snap off that heavy weight. Then, step 3 is your final, delicate, clean cut right at the base of the branch.
Oh, and remember this magic number, 2.5 centimeters. If you make any surgical wound on the tree larger than 2.5 centimeters, it requires a bandage. You have to seal up that large cut to keep disease and pests out of the vulnerable wood. You can use a specialized orchard paste like phytobalsam or even just some simple linseed oil paint. Slap it on there immediately to protect the exposed wood while the tree does its healing work. Let's look at part 5, common mistakes you really want to avoid. Even with the absolute best intentions, it is so easy to make a misstep here. This next point is arguably the biggest beginner error in all of fruit tree pruning, leaving a stub. When you take off a branch, your final cut has to be right at the branch collar. That's the slightly swollen ring of bark right where the branch meets the main trunk. The tree actually has special healing cells clustered right in that swelling. If you leave a stump sticking out, the tree physically cannot heal over it. That stump is just going to die, rot, and act like a highway for decay straight into the heart of your tree. Seriously, never leave stubs.
There are 3 more costly traps to watch out for. First, sharp branch angles. Branches growing upward at an angle less than 30 degrees from the trunk are super weak. Come harvest time, when they're heavy with fruit, they act like a wedge and will literally split the trunk wide open. Second, if you spot a natural cavity in an old tree filled with water, never try to drill a hole to drain it. Drilling just breaks the tree's natural defense barriers and invites instant rot. And finally, never apply nitrogen fertilizers in the autumn. Nitrogen tricks the tree into pushing out tender, leafy new growth, which will instantly freeze and die the second winter hits.
Moving to part 6, expert tips and tricks. Let's elevate your skills a bit with some comprehensive orchard care. A true expert knows the job isn't done when the cutting stops. You've got to clean the operating room. Rake up all those fallen leaves, twigs, and mummified fruit from the ground and destroy them, because they are prime real estate for overwintering pests. Next up, gently brush any old flaky bark off the main trunk and treat it with an iron sulfate solution. You want about 500 grams dissolved in 10 liters of water. This kills off moss, lichen, and hidden fungal spores. Finally, feed the roots with 300 grams of superphosphate and 200 grams of potassium sulfate. This builds massive root resilience for the freezing months ahead.
And finally, part 7. Let's wrap this up with a final review.
We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, but if you take away nothing else, please memorize these 3 golden rules of autumn pruning. Number 1, sterilize your tools like a surgeon between trees to stop disease dead in its tracks. Number 2, check that thermometer. Never prune if it drops below -5 degrees Celsius. And always pick a dry day. And number 3, save your bark by using the 3-cut method for large branches, and don't forget to seal any wound bigger than 2.5 centimeters. Stick to these rules, and your pear trees are going to be incredibly healthy and productive.
Now, a quick but super important disclaimer here. While this guide totally empowers you to handle routine sanitary pruning, some issues are just way beyond basic home care. If your tree is showing signs of severe, unexplained branch dieback, if it has massive trunk cavities with bracket fungi growing right out of them, or if you suspect honey fungus down at the roots, stop cutting. Always reach out to a certified professional arborist to diagnose and treat those heavy-duty conditions safely.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. But before you go, I want to leave you with a slightly provocative thought. We've spent all this time talking about treating the outside of the tree, but what's happening beneath the soil? How do those massive, complex underground fungal networks respond when you dramatically prune a tree above ground? Think about that for a bit, and definitely drop your thoughts and pruning experiences in the comments below. If you found this manual helpful, please share it with your fellow gardeners so we can all grow healthier fruit together. Thanks for learning with us, and happy pruning!